Hey, Bastich B for 64K and welcome to archive number 3 of the Zine-Files. And welcome back. If you've never watched any episodes in this series before, basically I take a magazine. This is issue number 50 of Zzap 64, June 1989. Basically we go through this whole magazine, we go through every page, we look at all the games that are in there, discuss them, chat about them, show footage for almost everything in the magazine. So even though this magazine was known as Zzap 64, you can also see over here it says Amiga. It also covers all the Amiga scene, which is part of the Commodore. It's like a 16-bit Commodore 64 basically. Zzap also had a resurgence recently. They had a really successful Kickstarter, which I was one of the participants, and they're going to bring out this cool annual with all like modern game reviews of modern Commodore 64 games, but done in this old style Zzap 64 format. I really can't wait to get that. I should be getting that pretty soon. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Let's jump straight into this issue. There's a lot of games to show and a lot of footage to see and a lot of things to discuss. Let's check it out. And here we are, Zzap 64 issue number 50, June 1989. And look at that awesome cover. Another Oliver Frey masterpiece, if I may say. I mainly know the artist Oliver Frey for his Zzap 64 covers. I know he's known for other stuff, but he just did some brilliant things like the Speedball cover here, which is a game we'll get to later, which they have reviewed. We also got Forgotten Worlds and Powerdrome. I haven't played that game in years. And we also got a mega tape. It's basically like demo discs you got in the 90s on magazines, you know, the ones for like Saturn and PlayStation. This is the older version. This came on tape. You got a demo here of Phobia, which I believe it was a Psygnosis game. I remember playing that, shoot 'em up. You also got this awesome Martin Walker demo. He did a lot of cool music for a lot of C64 games like Swiv and Dragon Breed, so that's pretty cool. Let's get on to the first page. And here we got a massive spread for Ocean Software, massive advert for all their games, a whole bunch of them anyway. If you lived in the 80s and 90s, lived through those periods, then Ocean was huge. Can't even explain how huge they were. They're kings of the licensed games, usually movies, but they also did tons of arcade conversions. They did an excellent conversion here of Dragon Ninja. I absolutely love that. It's also known as Bad Dudes, that game. Robocop is freaking excellent as well. They did an excellent conversion of that game from the arcade. The Batman, the Cape Crusader. This is a very cool, unique game. Had a really cool like comic book art style. I really loved that. I played that quite a lot. And the last one over there on the right is Wek Le Mans. It's a racing game. This was also an arcade game. The port is not very good. It's definitely not a racing game you want to look for. Okay, yeah, we got the contents page. I'm not really going to go through this because we're going to get to everything in the magazine anyway. So let's just move on. Okay, so this page is called The Word. This is like previews and upcoming release stuff. This is one of my favorite parts of this magazine. And to the top left there, you got Bard's Tale Going Cheap. They're just talking about the re-releases of classic electronic arts games that are going to be super cheap budget label. So if you missed out on like things like Skyfox or Marble Madness or the Bard's Tale, you can pick those up for cheap. That was pretty cool. Then a little bit to your right there, you got Where's the Blood Money? They're also talking about Where Blood Money Is. That was a game, a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up made by Psygnosis. It still hadn't come out yet. It was being worked on by the guys that made the game Menace, which was also released by Psygnosis. And anyway, they're talking about it. It's going to be coming out within the next month, so they're looking forward to that. It's a pretty good game. And to the right, you got Xenon 2, The Secret's Out. So there hadn't been any official announcement that Xenon 2 was coming out, but the Bitmap Brothers released the information. The Bitmap Brothers, they're like a bunch of coders that did like excellent games like the Speedball series. Anyway, this is their sequel to Xenon, Xenon 2 Mega Blast. It said that game is 50% bigger than the original. I played the original, is pretty damn good. Definitely one worth looking out for. And to your right, you got that picture of Timothy Dalton there as James Bond, which is my favorite James Bond ever. The two movies he made are fantastic. Anyway, they're talking about Domark, the company that had the James Bond license at the time. And they had put out a whole bunch of Bond games up until this point with mixed degrees of like goodness. You had some good ones and some really like terrible ones. License to Kill is not one of the terrible ones. I would go as far as to say that License to Kill is definitely Domark's best Bond game. It's damn good. It's a top-down like kind of action game. And if you look a little bit lower there to your left, you got C64 Tales Untangled. They're talking about Origin Systems' latest RPG, which is Tangle Tales. Now, this is a game that I never hear anybody talk about or even mention. It's like Origin Systems' like lost game almost. It's a really good RPG. I played it. It has a really good interface. The graphics are good. It's just an all-round great RPG. It's super hard to find. It was definitely one of the games I remember vividly as an RPG playing on my 64. If you have an opportunity, like play it through emulation, definitely check that one out. It's fantastic. Or even tracking down the original, good luck on that. Cost you a fortune. Anyway, let's go to the next page. And in the top left there, you got Total Mail Order 2. They're just talking about W.H. Smith. They had a special mail order arm in their company, and you could get a special version of Total Eclipse 2, like some sort of special edition, you know, of the game for a super cheap price if you use their mail order system. That's a pretty interesting way of getting somebody to buy a game. And if you just go straight to the bottom there, there's not much else to look at here. They're just talking about some new titles that are going to be coming out from Infogrames at the time. You had Murder in Venice and Tintin on the Moon, both some pretty decent games. And let's go to the right. In the middle of the page there, you got the charts with a Z. And there's a top 20 countdowns for some of these things. Anyway, they've got a top 20 Commodore 64 games. I'll just mention the first three. Number 1, you got The Last Ninja 2. Number 2, Armalite, and number 3, Micropro Soccer, some excellent games. And below that, you got the Amiga top 10. The top 3 are Elite, Rocket Ranger, and Speedball. Again, excellent stuff. And below that, you got the Coin Ops. You got Double Dragon, Operation Wolf, and RoboCop. Holy cow. 1989 was a magic year for games. It was freaking amazing. And on my copy of Zzap I'm looking at here, half this page is missing because I cut out that whole piece to the right there that you can put into like a single cassette. You know, it's your cover for your little demo tape. So this whole page is half gone. But you can see you can cut that out and make your own little demo tape cover, which is pretty cool for those demos I mentioned earlier. Okay, let's go to the next page. So on the left there, you got an advert for the Capcom arcade classic Last Duel. I played this a few times in the arcade. It didn't leave too much of an impression. I don't have much memories of it. I never ended up playing any of the home conversions of this game, like whether it was a Commodore or the Amiga or PC, even none of them. So I can't really say whether they're any good or not. And to your right, you got Zzap Me Tips. That is, this is their section where they, you know, they have tips for games or cheats or cheat codes. They used to call them pokes back in the day. You used to put these little codes in before you loaded a game and ran that, and then you would load the game and it would add like infinite lives or level skipping or whatever was available in the magazine, really. So we're going to go through these tips pages pretty quick here. There are some interesting things, but most of it we're going to go like lightning fast. And over here we got a map for Saboteur 2. It shows you where all the weapons and tapes and guards and all other things that want to kill you in this game are. Pretty nice map. It's really detailed. It's very cool. I was more of a fan of the first one than this one. Saboteur 2 is still pretty decent though. And like I said earlier, this is like the pokes and cheats section. You have some more of these things. Type them all in and cheat your way to the end. And here we got this pretty awesome strategy guide for R-Type. It shows all 8 levels. This is a really good conversion from the RM arcade game to the 64. It was programmed by the guys that did Catechus. And we got another page of pokes here. Next. And here we got a solution to Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders. Probably my favorite LucasArts adventure game, or Lucasfilm as they were known when this game was made. This game is fantastic. It's excellent. I just love it. The humor and everything about it is just brilliant. The solution is part 1. In the next issue of Zzap, they have the rest of it. This thing definitely helped me through this game. And as you can see, it's got the Mexican temple map here, which is a super confusing part of the game. It's probably almost as confusing as the pyramid on Mars sequence near the end of the game, which is super confusing. Those are like kind of maze sections. I just kind of muddled my way through those because I didn't have the solution when I originally played it. Got this magazine a few months later after I'd finished the game, and then I replayed it and it was so much easier. And yeah, some tips and tricks to score goals in Micropro Soccer. And here's a map for the first level of Rambo 3. I always thought it was a pretty good game. Don't forget to pick up that mine detector, kids. So on the left we've still got some more pokes and cheats, and on the right you got that awesome advert for Speedball. It says coming soon. This is the actual issue where they have the review for Speedball, so we won't talk about it really here. We'll talk a little bit about it when it comes up. Okay, so on your left you got Renegade 3, the final chapter. This is a really weird series if you think about it. The original one came out in the arcades, and then it was converted to home computers at the time. NES got a conversion as well, and some other consoles, and then they made Target Renegade, which was awesome. That one was actually made for computers first. There were a couple of console ports. The NES definitely got a Target Renegade. I'm not sure about any other system. And then this third one, Renegade 3, the final chapter. This thing only came out on went anywhere else, so it started out as an arcade game and ended up just becoming a computer game franchise. It's kind of weird. Anyway, this game is... I have mixed feelings about this game. The gameplay is really... It's not very good, let's just be honest. The graphics in this game is really nice. It's got that kind of... like that look from Target Renegade, where it's really detailed. You know, the sprites aren't chunky. It looks really nice, and it's nice and colorful. You time traveling for some unknown reason. It's bizarre. You like beat up like dinosaurs and stuff. It's weird. I found the gameplay to be super annoying, so anyway, I wouldn't suggest playing it. And on your right you got Xenon. So this is the conversion to the Commodore 64 of the Amiga top-down shoot-'em-up classic. So that game is very cool. This conversion is okay. I think Zzap got it right on the button. They gave it 70% overall. It's an okay shooter. Color scheme on the graphics is just like this gray, and it's really hard to see what the hell's going on sometimes, and you get lost in your own the background. The game plays pretty well though. Obviously if you want to play this game, just play the Amiga version instead. And here we have Speedball, the conversion of the Amiga classic. This game got a Zzap sizzler, and deservedly so. Got 90% overall. They hit it right on the money here. This is a brilliant conversion. The graphics have been translated exceptionally well across to the Commodore. Not only that, the music and sound effects, everything is just spot on. The gameplay is like Fast and Furious. It retains everything that made the Amiga games so much fun. I played this in Versus a lot. Tons. Way too much really. The Speedball 2 as well was also an excellent conversion to the Commodore, so both these games are brilliant. Both of them are available on the C64 Mini, so if you want to check them out that way. Okay, so we got more reviews, and in the top left we got Bio Challenge. This is a game made by Delphi Software. They became way more famous later when they made Flashback and the excellent Future Wars, the point-and-click adventure game. This is them at their beginnings. I believe this was their first game. I'm not 100%, I'd have to check that up, but it's one of their first games at least, or not their first game. This is a bit of a hybrid thing as well. It's a shoot 'em up, and it's a kind of a side-scrolling platform game. Zzap said it's pretty cool once you get used to the slightly unorthodox control scheme. I've never played it, but I'm definitely going to give this one a shot. I captured some footage for this, but I never got, I just played it a little bit. It seemed kind of cool. And if you look below, you got Steve Davis World Snooker. I played a lot of snooker games. This looks like just run-of-the-mill stuff here, so I'm just going to move on. And top right there, you got Rockstar, Eatin Hamster. This is a game released by Codemasters. It follows on with Codemasters' usual pedigree in the 80s of making games that are like kind of simulations. This one, you actually are like a manager, and you're trying to start a band and trying to become famous. Zzap were pretty harsh on this game. They only gave it 50%. I totally disagree. I really enjoyed this game. I found it really fun. This is the Commodore version. The graphics aren't as good as they could be. I think they pretty much just did a Spectrum port here, which is unfortunate, but the gameplay is still solid. The footage you've seen here is from the Amiga version. I did a review on it a few months ago in my rapid fire section, so if you want to see more details about the game, and I would highly suggest checking this game out. I think it's really fun, and it's really funny as well. Yeah, we got Battlehawks 1942 by Lucasfilm. Zzap gave it a sizzler. They gave it 90%. It deserves it. It's an awesome game. It reminds me a lot of like the old Accolade games, where it's as much a simulation as it is an action kind of arcadey experience. so it caters to both. I really like this game. I played it originally on my PC. This Amiga version though is better. The sound is much better. The sound effects are really awesome in this thing. Great game. They gave it 90% and they said it's a well implemented, technically impressive, and above all fun piece of software which will keep the both sim freaks and blast fans quiet for some time. Agreed 100%. And on the right you got Time Scanner. This is supposedly based on a Sega arcade game. I'd never seen this thing before, ever. Looks like a digital pinball game, which is a bit odd at the time. Anyway, this advert is really bad. Activision, I don't know what you were doing. There's no indication as to what systems this thing was even coming out on, so you kind of missed the ball there. Except this one screenshot on the left, it says Atari ST screen shown, and that's about as much information you got. Yeah, so on your right you got a review for The Muncher, released by Gremlin Graphics. This game is surprisingly good. They gave it 71%. I enjoyed it when I played it back in the day. Immediately compare this thing to Rampage, which it kind of is, but it's not. It's a little bit more like Epix's old movie monster game. You're a big monster, you go around smashing up buildings, eating people, destroying stuff. And it's a side-scroller from left to right. The graphics are nice and chunky, the animation is good, it's satisfying destroying buildings and eating people and blowing up helicopters and shooting fireballs. I like this game, kind of a forgotten little gem of a Gremlin Graphics game, I think. Okay, so on the left you got Powerdrome by Electronic Arts. This game came out on PC as well at the time. This is the Amiga version. This game is really impressive 3D wise. It's like a futuristic racing game. You can think of it as like a old version of Wipeout if you want. They gave it 93%, which is insanely good. I agree, this game is very cool. They said it's a well represented and programmed futuristic racing game which should keep speed and simulation fans happy. Yeah, I think it's really cool. Played it on the PC originally. I think the Amiga version is better as per usual. It's got better sound again. And on your right you got Pac-Land. This is a conversion of the arcade game. I played the arcade and the Commodore 64 version, which are both very cool. They said the port to the Amiga is really lackluster, which is unfortunate because you could have done a pretty accurate conversion of the arcade game on the Amiga at the time. And on the left we got The Crystal, which got a Zzap Sizzler, got 91% overall. This game's a bit of a mishmash of a game. It's like a point and click adventure, flying a ship through space and you go to different planets and go adventuring. I've played this game a bit. I've never gotten very far into it. From what I've played, I really liked it. This game was also released by Cinemaware in the US. That always confused me. I always thought it was a Cinemaware game until, you know, I realized it wasn't. I would like to play some more of it. Got a really good rating here for the Amiga. And on your right you got The Real Ghostbusters, released by Activision. This game is pretty terrible, really. It's a conversion of the old arcade game, which is based on the cartoon series from the 80s, the Real Ghostbusters one, not that other dodgy Hanna-Barbera piece of garbage. This one, it got overall 67%. I think they've been like lenient on that one. I would have given it lower than that. It's ugly, it's boring, it's just not fun to play. Yeah, skip it. Just skip it. Yeah, we got this awesome poster for Forgotten Worlds. Reviews coming up soon. Advert for various computer peripherals. And over here we got the compilation of excellence called Precious Metal. This is a compilation, obviously. This is released by Ocean. It's got 4 really bizarre games mixed in here. Like, it's very diverse, let's put it that way. So, which is kind of cool. You got Arkanoid, Revenge of Doe. It's obviously the sequel to the original Arkanoid, the kind of breakout game if you've never played it before. And the second one is Captain Blood there. It's a weird like kind of space exploration game. And the top right there you got Super Hang-On, which is based on the Sega arcade game by Yu Suzuki. Great racing game. And then below that you got Xenon, which we looked at earlier, the shoot 'em up from the Bitmap Brothers. So yeah, this is a very diverse compilation. I would have definitely bought this if I'd seen it. Here's the Zzap rap letters section. So we'll go straight to the second page here. Just like all the UK magazines I used to read at the time, like CNVG and all those other ones, the letters section was basically people sending in really stupid letters and the guy basically just trashing you. I'll just read one very briefly here. This one is called, I have completely made up this letter. Dear Lloyd, I have completely made up this letter because I am stupid. Do I win a prize? This is from R. Brucey Bennett. Lloyd's responses, no. yeah, that's pretty much it, so he's gonna move on. Got an advert here for Atari ST computer and a PC engine. And over here we've got an advert on the left for Ocean's Voyager. This is a game I never got to play. It was Amiga and Atari ST. It was kind of like from inside your spaceship, you go around blasting stuff. Anyway, this advert cover art is by Bob Wakelin. The guy recently died, and he just made some of the best 80s covers for video games, some of my favorites of all time. Anyway, this advert is, I don't know how this one passed the censors. What the dude's about to do there is kind of dodgy. Figure it out yourself. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, yeah, we got to the Call Blimey, the budget bit. This is all re-release games that are being released at a budget price. So we got Tetris is being re-released by Mastertronic, and they gave it 98%. I mean, it's Tetris. What can you really say? The C64 version is pretty bizarre though. It's got this like kind of like weird space kind of vibe to it. It's really weird. But it plays like Tetris, and it's a classic game, so yep, that's it. And then we'll look at the top right there. You got the budget release of Manic Mana, released by Mastertronic as well, and they gave it 95%. I mean, if you're paying like £2.99 for the game, then why not, right? It's one of those single screen games where you go around collecting stuff and then go flips to the next page kind of deal. It's a super difficult game. It's quite enjoyable though. And below Manic Mana there, you got Para Assault Course, which I thought was hilarious. I just wanted to mention that. It's made by Zeppelin, who made budget games. That game clearly is a ripoff of Combat School, as you can see. I just thought it was pretty funny to point out. Let's go to the next page. And in this section we got Chuck Vomit. He was the like adventure kind of RPG guy. He used to delve into all that stuff, whether it was text adventures or point and click or whatever RPGs. He was the guy, and he was taking a look at Police Quest for the Amiga. This came out, bear in mind, a few years after the PC version, and the game is pretty much exactly the same, which is unfortunate because, as I've mentioned many times before, the Amiga was vastly superior and capable of more. They could have done some really cool stuff, yeah, but they didn't. Sierra just left it pretty much the same, the DOS version. He ripped it to shreds, which is, it's not really deserving at the time, at least. You know, if you play this game now, it hasn't aged very well, and I'm not talking about graphics, because retro graphics is retro graphics. I'm talking about gameplay. It's kind of painful to play. Anyway, he gave it a really bad score. I'll show you on the next page. And as you can see, 48%, not much else to say here. Zzap guy's playing Whizball for a high score, nothing more there. More nothingness. Let's keep going. Let's keep it a-moving. Some Zzap merch, keep going. Order forms, go, go, go. Classifieds, boring, next. Aha, now we got back to the good reviews. Yeah, we got this massive review for Forgotten Worlds based on the Capcom arcade game, the side-scrolling shoot 'em up. There's a review here for the Amiga and the Commodore 64 version. They both got Zzap Sizzlers, which means they were freaking excellent. The Commodore one they gave 93%, and the Amiga one 97%, saying it's almost an identical port of the arcade. I played the C64 version of this one, and it's pretty good. Even the control scheme is fairly decent. The control scheme is always an issue with this game on any port of it, the many versions I've played, but the Commodore one does a fairly decent job. You just have to get used to it a bit, and the graphics and everything are really good. I enjoyed it. It's well done. I never played the Amiga version, but the Amiga version looks pretty damn fantastic. It's definitely a shoot 'em up for both systems you want to check out. And yeah, we got Titan by Titus. Ugh, I'm not wasting my time on this. Some really good stuff here. So first up on the left there, we got Kickoff, which is a really great little soccer game. It's just really fun to play. They gave it 96% on the Amiga. They said it's just brilliant. They really loved it. Got a Sizzler. And on the right, you got Hillsfar, which is a Dungeons and Dragons game. It's released by SSR. They did all the gold box Dungeons and Dragons games. This one was released by US Gold in the UK. And this is an excellent RPG. It's got a whole lot of like arcadey elements to it as well. It makes it so much better than your regular RPG at the time. I would say this is probably my favorite out of the Dungeons & Dragons games that SSR made. They made a lot of really good ones, so it's really hard to say, but if I had to choose, I probably would choose this one as my favorite, even though that's blasphemy because the other ones are so good. Anyway, they gave it 80%. Overall, they said it's just a really great RPG with a lot of variety and a lot of lost ability. Yeah, this is a really good Dungeons & Dragons game to check out. Okay, so on to the final review of this issue. We got Danger Freak on the Commodore 64 and Amiga. I really like this game. They gave the Commodore version 48% and the Amiga version 39%. I think they've been way too harsh on this game. I can't really say anything about the Amiga one. I played the Commodore one as per usual. I found it to be really fun. You basically a stuntman. You're trying to perform these weird stunts. Like, there's this one level where you jump on the back of the sports car and you got to jump onto a helicopter with like this rope ladder. And there's other ones where you're on a motorbike and you're trying to like dodge landmines and while you're ramping over ramps and all this kind of crazy stuff. The graphics and music in the Commodore one especially are really good. I'm pretty sure the music was by Chris Hulsbeck. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he did the music. It's pretty damn awesome. Anyway, I would suggest checking this out, at least on the Commodore version. And on the right, you got an advert for Navy Moves. This was the sequel to Army Moves, which came out probably a few years earlier. It was super difficult though, especially the beginning. You're in a rubber dinghy and you're trying to jump over these sea mines. It's ridiculously hard. It totally puts you off the whole game. Anyway, if you manage to survive that, there's a good game under there. I preferred the first one, Army Moves, to this one. Army Moves is just better. This one is still quite good though. I like the variety of the levels. I like the on-foot missions later on where you get to run around the silo place and try and blow it up. It's really fun. And this was the second of a trilogy of games. The third one, Arctic Moves, came out much later, probably mid-90s I would say. Don't remember exactly when. Anyway, that's the third part if you're interested. And finally to the back cover here, and lo and behold, we got an ocean game. That was unexpected. Anyway, this is Red Heat, based on the movie with Arnold. Probably his most underrated movie. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. The game you should not check out. It's pretty bad. It doesn't follow the good old tradition of ocean games where you had mini games for each kind of part of the movie. It's just like the side-scrolling thing. And you only really need to play like about 15 seconds of this game and you've played the whole thing. It just repeats itself over and over again. It's super boring. It's not a good game. Check it out for pure like hilarity's sake if you really want to, but only for 15 seconds though. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. That's it for issue number 50, June 1989. Okay, thanks for joining me, Bastich B, and looking over this excellent issue of Zzap 64 with me. I've also got 2 other episodes in this series. I covered 2 issues of Computer and Video Games, or CMVG, from 1990 and 1991. Those are 2 really cool ones you want to check out. They cover like old school computers, Commodore stuff, Amiga, PC, and early console stuff. So tons of footage in there if you want to check those out as well. And if you haven't already, if you could like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Cut to credits.